Welcome to the second episode of the Tuesday Tea. Thank you guys so much for all of your love on the first episode. I'm glad you guys liked it. Did any of you guys listen to it before we posted that it was out? Because some of you know it was out for 3 days before?
I think it was 4.
And it had 15 listens maybe, and we
Yeah.
only know of a few.
15 listens within the first hour it was out. So it wasn't even days. It was just the first hour. I was like, oh no, people saw.
Yeah, we have no idea. We
Yeah.
never, so it's kind of a long story, but when you're posting a podcast, you have to get it approved by Spotify, which we didn't know. And some stuff said it could take longer than 24 hours. So we posted it on the Thursday before just to make sure that it was up on time. And it got approved literally right away.
Literally right. We were like, let's be smart. Let's plan ahead. No, really, they approved it right away.
Yeah. And so it was up. So if people looked up the Tuesday Tea podcast, they could find it. So if you guys did that, let us know.
Lucky Angels
Yeah.
got a quick preview.
A little sneak peek.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for all of your love on the first episode. We had so much fun filming it, and it's just so fun. How do you feel about your introduction into the podcast world, Carly?
So fun.
Yeah?
Yeah. I can't wait to hear. We said this in the first episode, but I think my favorite part is hearing all the different stories.
Yeah.
I literally cannot wait for more.
I know.
And what I'm excited about is getting call-ins for more context.
Yeah.
And questions and closure and all the things. We figured out that was the gap that we were missing in other content we've seen. And so being able to have the ability to chat with people in the future is going to be exciting.
Yeah. So if you don't know what Carly's talking about, we're going to basically have people call in future episodes. So if there's a story where we need more context or we want to hear what happened after or something like that, we're going to give people an opportunity to call in on some episodes, which will be really fun.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. But today's episode, we're going to jump into some juicy tea because we mentioned in the first episode that we bonded over having a broken engagement. And I have shared this on social media for a long time. Obviously, ever since it happened about 3.5 years ago.
We were around the same time, weren't we?
Yeah. And so I've shared it a lot, but I've never shared it in a long form content type situation. And we thought, people always ask about it. People want more information. I feel like anytime a couple breaks up, you want to know everything.
Always. There's so much tea.
Yeah. So we're going to go into both of our situations also because we think that our situations can just help people. I still to this day get messages of people saying thank you so much for sharing your story. Because of you, I called off my engagement and stuff, which I'm like, well, I hope that was the right decision. I hope I didn't influence you to do something bad. But I think there's just power in sharing your stories. Yeah. And so I think that it's going to be juicy tea for all of you guys to hear about our breakup stories, but also it'll help you get to know us a little bit better for the rest of this podcast. So I'm excited.
Me too.
Okay, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I don't know. I feel like the people want you.
The people want you too, Carly.
They want.
Okay, so I'm going to use a code name just in case. I'm sure a lot of you guys already know who I was engaged to, but if you don't remember or if you're new here, sorry, you're going to use a code name. Let's call him Caleb. What do we think about that? we know a Caleb.
Sweet Caleb.
No, we won't
Caleb,
say
we love
Caleb.
you. Different Caleb.
We'll say
Caleb's going to be so excited he got a shout out.
Okay, fine, I'll do Caleb. So
shout out Caleb.
So it feels so weird.
Okay.
I can't.
Yeah, we shouldn't. Let's do Carson.
Carson. Okay. So I met Carson in 2017. And so this is a whole nother story that we could talk about on a different podcast. But I had dated a guy named Dawson. That's his real name, not a code name, for 4 years. And he passed away very suddenly in January of 2017. And I had signed up to go on a mission trip that Dawson was supposed to go on. And obviously didn't get to. So I was going on that in September. And so in August, I want to say, I met what's his code name? Carson. I met Carson and he pursued me a lot. And looking back, it's just, it seems like we've talked about this before. It seems like a different life. Like just thinking about it, it's literally a different human. Like I do not feel like the same person, but especially the fact of looking back on like how quickly I started dating him after the loss,
Mm,
because I think grief is just so intense. You really don't understand it until you're in it. And like each person's grief is so different. It's like you can never really compare it to someone else's, but it just felt like such a dark time in my life. And then what's his code name? I literally keep
Carson.
Carson.
Should we
Okay.
change it?
No, I'll remember. So then Carson came in and it was such like a joy and he made me so happy. And
Mm,
I remember just feeling like a light at the end of the tunnel, like finally someone that can make me feel happy
mm,
during this time where I'm still mourning. But I think like just the start of the relationship, the way that it all began was just really hard because it was like I wasn't able to like fully grieve. I was kind of taking like an easy way out in a sense
mm,
of like halfway grieving on my own and then halfway being happy with someone. And it just helped me feel better. Like it really did. And but it was hard because Carson didn't understand the gravity of what I was going through, and he would get kind of jealous and like feel like not enough sometimes when I was grieving and everything. Like once we started actually dating, which that was like a really big thing in our relationship. But anyway, so that's how we started dating, and we also got like a lot of backlash from like community for me
mm.
starting to date so soon after, and
Were you in social media at the time?
yeah.
Oh my
But
gosh,
the social,
2017.
yeah, the social media people weren't. It was like people actually in our community that
Oh,
like went to the same church because Carson's family knew Dawson's family and like it was very intertwined and stuff like that.
yeah.
And I remember being really hurt. Like, why doesn't anyone want me to be happy? Like, I've been through so much, and everyone would always say that they like want the best for me and they want me to be happy. But as soon as I pursue that, like, they don't feel that way anymore because it's not on their timeline.
Hmm.
But I understand people's feelings, but anyways, just the start of the relationship, like, wasn't really super great, but I think that I really, like, dove all in because it was that feeling of, like, having comfort and stuff like that, and Carson is a really good guy, like, I during when Dawson passed away, I really dove deep into my faith, like, that's a huge part of my testimony, and I just knew God like I never had before, I was pursuing God like I never had before, and then Carson was also, like, a really faith-filled guy. Like he knew a lot more than me because he was like in Bible college and stuff at the time. So he like technically he like just was very book smart. Like he
Hmm.
knew a lot and he taught me a lot.
Hmm.
And so I just felt like, okay, this is like the person that I'm probably supposed to be with because it's just like it felt God ordained kind of
Hmm.
because it just was like all that horrible stuff happened to me so that I could have like a really godly relationship that helps me grow in my faith and all that stuff. So that's how it felt towards like the first half of the relationship. We dated for about a year and a half before getting engaged. And I would say most of that time that we were dating, I was really excited about getting engaged. I really felt like this was it. Like, but I wasn't like, I don't know, I always had something in the back of my mind, but it wasn't until I'll never forget, we went on a trip to Disney World, the two of us, in June. We got engaged in September. So we went in June. And on that trip, I just started to kind of like see different qualities that I hadn't seen before and different characteristics that were frankly just unattractive
On
to
the
me.
trip.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard this.
I think it's just because when you travel with someone, you
Oh
really
my
start to
gosh.
see
Yeah.
like different parts of them.
Yeah.
And also, we were having conversations about like what our future would look like just kind of work related stuff.
Hmm.
And I was being really honest about like what I thought. And I don't know. I just think there's a lot that goes into it. And I don't know how detailed I want to be, but like, there were parts of his family that I really didn't want in my future family, just the way that they operated, kind of their values and the way that they communicated. And I could see that coming out like in him, where I had always thought that he was so different from his family. But then the more I like spent time with him and traveling and like maybe high pressure, high stress, traveling
Mhm.
the airport, it brings out the worst in people sometimes.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I started to kind of have like a little doubt in my mind. And so that just kind of grew over the next few months. I just felt progressively less and less peace about it. And we were also talking about getting engaged, so I knew it was coming. And at the beginning of September, me and a few of my friends got together for brunch, and they're like, "How are you and Carson doing?" And I was like, "You guys, I don't know. Like, I'm really stressed. I just don't feel peace about like getting engaged right now and I don't know why." And I really just like confided in them about everything. And I hadn't talked about this out loud a lot because it's like, you tell your friends everything, but when you tell them something about your relationship that's negative, that doesn't just go away. And they're not in the relationship to see the positive things. So
Mhm.
it's like if you tell them about a bad fight where they were horrible to
Mhm.
you, they're going to automatically not like the person, even though they weren't there for the makeup. They haven't seen the positive changes
Yeah.
after the fight, whatever. So it kind of just leaves a negative taste in their mouth. And with talking about an engagement, I was like, I don't want to say that I'm like not wanting to get engaged and then get engaged and then like them just think that I don't want to get married. So I was like really hesitant to talk to my friends about it, but I opened up to them because at that point we hadn't gotten engaged yet. And they knew that he was proposing in like 2 weeks. And um, yeah, so I told them that, and they obviously didn't want to ruin the surprise, but they were like, okay, you need to talk to him about this. Like, you need to talk to him about these doubts that you're having. And they were really pushing me on it. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right, I do. So I go home, and like a few days later, my friend texts me, hey, have you talked to him about it yet? I'm like, no, I'm going to talk to him this weekend. And then they're like, hey, have you talked to him about it yet? I'm like,
Stop.
oh, no. So then finally, I talked to him about it and I'm like, I want to get engaged to you. I just think it's too fast. I just need time to think. I'm just not really feeling peace about it. He loses his mind because he's literally about to propose the next week, which I understand why he'd be upset about
Oh my
that. So
gosh.
he starts like crying, freaking out. He's like, I need to call my dad. I need to like
I
talk
need
to
to
my
call my
yeah, I
dad.
don't know. He just was like freaking out on me and kind of like making me feel bad, but I understand because he had this whole proposal after party planned, booked, everything's
Sure,
like
but this is your relationship. This is what it's about.
yeah, but like I was still saying I wanted to get engaged. I wasn't like I don't want
Yeah.
to be with you. So I just wanted to like delay it a little bit to think about it. And so I go home super stressed out and I literally made a pros and cons list of like things about
That's when
him.
you know.
And it's yeah, some advice. If you have to make a pros and cons list, you're it's not good.
No.
But so I made the pros and cons list, and the pros list was so long. And here's the thing, like on paper, he was the perfect match for me. He was everything that
Mhm.
I'd wanted. Like there
Mhm.
was nothing wrong with him, like technically. Like he literally checked all the boxes. So that's why I was like, okay, never mind. Like, we can do this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna do it. There's nothing wrong. I'm just freaking out. And I think that I attributed the panic with like guilt of moving on from Dawson. So I think I was kind of confusing myself, like, no, I think I'm just stressed about like, getting married and kind of like, I don't know, just feelings of guilt with that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I said, never mind, it's okay. Like, I want to do it. And so I knew the engagement was coming because I figured it out when he said, like, it's happening next weekend. I'm like, what are we doing next weekend? So I figured it out. So we go, he proposes. It just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right.
Shoot.
Like, I was happy, but I was so stressed. I remember getting to the after party and I just wanted to get drunk. I wanted
Mm.
like drinks and I was so stressed and anxious and I just didn't feel like I think a part of it was because there was that animosity with some of my community about like dating him in the first place. Like my friends didn't really know him as well. That was one doubt that really like came out later, I realized was like he slowly kind of like pulled me from my friends because he didn't really like my friends that much. And he just didn't value friends the same way that I do. And that was something that I saw in his family as well. And so, like, seeing my friends, it's like I feel like they didn't even know him that well. It just didn't feel right. And so I go home and I'm like excited, but I'm not like it's not like I was miserable. Like I was excited and in
Mm-hmm.
love.
Mm-hmm.
I just had it just didn't feel complete. Like it didn't feel completely peaceful or, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so my sister was like, "Okay, we need to start going to wedding venues." Panic. Like I'm just like, "Oh my gosh." So then this is September. I kind of put off like planning the wedding until like after the holidays. I'm like, okay, we can start looking. I think we looked at one venue in November, and then I was like so slow with all this stuff
Yeah.
because I'm like, I don't know. And then in March, COVID hit. And COVID was like the biggest blessing for that part. I know COVID was horrible. Don't take my words out of context. But like, I remember feeling such relief when everything was shut down because I was like, oh, phew.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to plan my wedding. And so we just kind of like put it off because it was like, oh, well, we don't know when the world's going to come back. And we had like a good setup. We lived close to each other and all that stuff. So we weren't in like a super big rush, but we put it off. So at this point, it's 2020.
Okay.
So we booked a wedding venue in LA for October of 2020. And coming up, it was like I was pushing off all the planning. I didn't want to plan. I feel so bad for my mom because I feel like I took it out
Mm.
on my mom. Like I'd be so frustrated with her planning, but it wasn't because of her. It was because I deep down just didn't want to plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so we
Did you
had
ever vocalize that to her?
no,
There was like doubt or fear.
no. I
Okay.
didn't say anything to anybody because
Okay.
like if I tell someone that I feel like I don't want to get engaged to him or get married to him, and then we do get married, I feel like there's always going to be that cloud over
Yeah.
their mind of our relationship.
Yeah.
So I just didn't even want to like instill that in anybody. And so
Yeah.
I didn't talk to anybody about it, which I mean, I see where my head was at, and I still agree that that's a thing, but I also think it's important to get wisdom from people and
Yeah.
um like I wish I had a mentor or something that I could have talked to.
So there was nobody you opened up to.
No. So I didn't
Wow.
tell anybody
That's
about,
heavy.
yeah, about
Yeah.
any of this. And so we had the venue booked, and then when it got closer and closer, we kind of had to decide, okay, what are we going to do? And I think my memory's a little fuzzy, but I think that we had to like,
So real.
yeah, I know because it's
Seven
another,
lives.
it's,
Literally, it was 7 lives. I
yeah,
swear. It's like
yeah.
a cat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
It was
sorry.
so many lives ago, many moons, many
Literally.
moons. But so I think she had restrictions on the venue because it was still COVID. Like you could only have like
Oh,
30
okay.
people or whatever. And it
Mm-hmm.
was in LA. So I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that because, I don't want to have restrictions. And I kind of played on that. And
Mm-hmm.
so we ended up canceling. And it was also like, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, you're not going to get your money
Yeah.
back past a certain point. So we just kind of like canceled everything, which that's where our stories differ because I didn't really have much money in it or things planned or booked or
Mm-hmm.
bought. I had tried on wedding dresses and the only thing that we had booked was like the DJ, but we got that refunded. So it really wasn't
Good. Yeah.
that big of a financial burden, but so yeah, then 2020 was ending and I remember I went to therapy because I wanted to go to grief therapy because I was just having a hard time. So I found this lady and she was like, I think that you're really struggling with your grief, but I also think that maybe you just don't want to marry Carson. And I remember being like, you don't know what you're talking about. I didn't say that, but I left thinking like, you don't know what you're talking about, lady. Like, I'm never coming back here again. And now she was totally right. Like,
Mm.
but I was just in such denial
Mm-hmm.
about my feelings because, like I said, he was so good on paper. He was such a good guy. He treated me so well. Literally, compared to any past relationship that I've had, like, he made me a priority. He affirmed me. Like, he was so loving towards me. I do think that I kind of always thought in the back of my mind, like, that it wasn't 100% real. I think he loved the idea of me. I
Mm.
think he loved that the way that I looked. I think he loved that I like had a social media platform. I think he loved that I
Mm.
could provide for us. I think he loved like
Oh
I
my
think he loved
gosh.
all of those things about me. I think
Ugh.
he loved my personality, but I don't think he truly was like deeply in
Yeah,
love
that's
with
not
me.
marriage though.
No, I think, yeah, and I think he just like got it a little murky in his mind. And I don't know if that's true, but that's
Yeah.
just kind of how I felt because to me, it was like I loved Dawson so much. So much. Like even before he passed away, like just the love that I had for him and still have, like, didn't compare to the love that I had
Hmm.
for Carson. And so I think like I just was like, you think that you're in love with me, but I don't think that this is like true marriage love. It's hard with grief because it's like you're never gonna love someone the same that you did the person that passed away.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you just have to make peace with that. Like it's
Yeah.
just never gonna be the same kind of love. And like
Hmm.
I do think that when I get married, I will feel a sense of like this is right,
Hmm.
and I'm confident in that. But it, yeah, it was just hard because I didn't like to compare it. It felt wrong.
Hmm.
And I didn't want to make Carson feel less than,
Hmm.
but I just knew. And then I was also like, maybe there's just not, I'm not capable of loving this soon after,
Mm.
like the way that I should be loving this
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. Do you think the timeline had to do with your lack of peace with Carson, or do you think it was just you and Carson weren't it and there wasn't peace in that?
Yeah, I think now I realize that we just weren't it, but I think at the time I was really confused about like
Yeah.
which one it was. And there was also the aspect that I knew that Carson wanted to be a pastor, and like with that, it kind of just threw me into a pastor's wife role. It's like one of those jobs where it's like combined. You can't have separate jobs, It's like I don't really know many other jobs that are like that. But it's like if you're married to a pastor, you're a pastor's wife. You're also a part of the church. You're also like working for the
Hmm.
church. And so that just never felt right to me. Like it did for a while, but it's just not my personality. And I remember thinking for a while, like, is this the enemy like instilling fear in me because I'm supposed to do this and he's making me afraid?
Hmm.
And I dealt with that for a while, but then I was like, I just don't think like I know that he's going to do amazing things, but I just don't think that I'm the one that like is supposed to do it with him.
Yeah.
And that was a really hard pill to swallow. But yeah, so I just went through all of these feelings, all of these thoughts, just kind of whenever we were together, I would have peace and so much fun and
Shoot.
love. And then as soon as we were apart, it was like instant anxiety, like
Yeah.
just constant thinking in my head, going through situations. And so that just wasn't good. And I remember, so the start of 2021 began, and that's the anniversary of Dawson's passing. And so I went to the beach just by myself on like the anniversary, and I was just I felt so heavy with like guilt and then also just stress about my life and like moving forward with this and the marriage and like when the wedding was going to be. And I just took the day just to go by myself. And like, I really kind of just there wasn't a moment that I like decided, but I think I just knew I was leaning more towards breaking up at that point than I was staying and getting married. Like just thinking about the two options, it's like, okay, if you're going to stay in this, you're getting married. So is that
Mhm.
okay with me or is it not? And so I came back from that, and then one day we were just at my house. I wasn't planning on doing it this day. Also, he was also pressuring me really hard to buy a house. And in Nashville, like there was a day where he literally wanted to put an offer in on a house, and I had to put it off because I was like, I can't commit to that. Like, I can't. And it was also frustrating because just like finances, like we were, like I was the provider. He didn't have anything at that time. I don't know. Like, yeah, that's just, it was an interesting situation
Why Nashville? Why were you guys looking at houses in Nashville?
because I wanted to. I always wanted to live in the South. And so we had decided like Nashville, but that was mainly because of me, like that I wanted to do that. So, um, yeah, it was just like a lot of pressure. Like the house thing was a lot. And then he came up to me, we are at my parents' house, and he just asked me, he was like, should we elope? Like, let's go elope. Yeah. He's like, let's go elope. Let's just do it. Like, I'm tired of waiting and all this stuff. And I just was like, not giving concrete answers. And then he just sat me down. He's like, Maddie, what's going on? Like, why don't you want to do anything? Why are you just putting it off? And then I was like, I think we should break up. I know.
You just said it right then and there.
Yeah. I was like, I think that we should break up. I just don't.
Wow.
I said, like, I just don't feel peace about it. I don't know why. And I had been open with him. I don't think I said this. I had been open with him throughout the relationship about not having peace. Like, I
Okay.
had told him, like, it wasn't, I had talked to him about it and no one else, but I didn't tell him, like, specific things that I knew would hurt him. Like, the stuff I was saying about, like, loving Dawson more and maybe not, like, having that same love. Like, I didn't want to hurt him, but I told him, like, I just feel like thinking about planning the wedding, thinking about all of this. Is it guilt from Dawson? I don't know. Is it the timeline? I don't know. That's why I went to therapy. Like, he was aware of all of those things happening and he was aware of the doubts that I was having. So he wasn't like, he didn't think that we were in this hunky dory perfect relationship. But I don't think he thought that we would ever break up because of
Mm.
it. I think he thought that we were like in it. And so I was like, I think that's just the only thing we haven't tried. Like, I've tried therapy, we've tried all these other things,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that I just need to be alone. And I think we just need to break up. And he was like really upset, obviously, went home. And then immediately after, like, obviously, I was very sad and heartbroken, but I just felt so much peace, just so much peace over me. Like, it was like a weight lifted off. Just all
Mm.
of the anxiety that had built up over the last year and a half was gone.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah, I just knew that I made the right decision. And so yeah, we reconnected to like talk maybe like a week or two later, and I basically told him, I feel the same. I feel like I made the right decision. He was not happy. Um, and in the following months, things got very, very sour, and he just was really angry with me. I don't think he's angry anymore. I think he's happy and all of that stuff. So, I mean, I want nothing but the best for him. And one thing I think about girls is that, at least with me, I tend to grieve the relationship while I'm still in it. Like, I process everything that I'm going to be thinking about, feeling, doubting, whatever, while I'm still in it.
Yeah.
And so I had to come to terms with the fact that, like, okay, he's going to marry someone else. He's going to do great things. He's going to, like, probably have a really big, successful career. Like, he's going to do all this. Am I okay if it's not with me?
Mm.
And I, like, was able to process all of that before. So I think it just helped me, like, really come to that conclusion when I ended it and just have the peace with it. Um, but yeah, afterwards, when things got a little bit sour, I was like, all right, this is just confirming like
Yeah.
all of the doubts that I was having. But I mean, that's not to say he's not a great person, because he is. I just don't think that we were compatible, and I think he was hurt, which is understandable.
Yeah.
But yeah, afterwards, I just felt so much peace. And one question I get asked a lot is like, how did you like deal with afterwards? Because it's so hard after a
Mm-hmm.
breakup, you know? And I think, like I said, processing it before definitely helped, because I like kind of got a head start on like the processing and
Mm-hmm.
all the stuff that comes after. But I just really focused on like becoming my best version of myself, and just like, instead of worrying about this marriage, about providing for two people, for like
Mm-hmm.
my career and all this stuff, I just focused on like what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to move to Nashville, so I moved to Nashville. I wanted to like get into fitness more, so I got into fitness more. I wanted to like decorate the house and like get a dog and read and all these things. So I just really focused on making myself the best version of myself, because everyone talks about like revenge body after you break up, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like there's also revenge mind and
Mm-hmm.
soul. Like, you can just really, if you focus on making yourself the best version of yourself, I think it really helps you heal from the relationship. So, yeah.
Did you ever hear from him again after you moved to Nashville?
Uh, well, there were a few things. I feel like I want to tell this in like an episode where we talk about men and their audacity. Because
That's a great one.
there's one thing that comes to mind where we had to have a conversation about basically him paying me back for something, and it was
Mm-hmm.
so bad. It was so
Finances,
bad.
man, finances. Better
So
than alimony, am I right?
yeah, yeah, literally. Yeah. Um, so we had that conversation. We had a few conversations afterwards, but I really just wanted to cut it off because it was too hard for me to talk to him. Like when I would talk to him, I'd feel really sad, feel really bad. Like I broke his heart. I didn't want to see
Yeah.
him and like face him.
Yeah.
So we had that conversation about finances. That was bad. And then after that, really nothing. I did text him the next September. I just texted him like, "Hey, I hope you're doing well. I'm just want to let you know like I'm so proud of you and I hope that you know that I'll always have your back." And like just like a nice
Yeah.
text saying like I'm rooting for you. If you ever need anything, like just let me know, something like that.
Yeah.
He never responded. Never heard from him since.
Wow. So it's been 3 years
Mm-hmm.
almost.
Yeah.
And it feels like a whole nother
It feels like a lifetime ago. It
it's
feels
crazy.
like that section of my life, the engagement, feels like a different me. Like before that feels like me,
Yeah.
and after that feels like me. And
Wow.
in that just doesn't feel like me. And I've, like, my friends will say too, like, you just seem like you again. Like afterwards, they would tell me that. And they're like, you didn't seem like you for a while. And it's true. I felt it. And I think that's why I knew in my gut. I'm like,
Yeah.
at first, it was kind of like a coping mechanism, but I did fall in love. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was just in this mess of like, now what do I do?
Yeah.
So,
Like I'm in a quote unquote healthy relationship. He treats me well,
yeah,
but it's not me.
yeah,
And I don't think anybody talks about that. And I think that's why I felt so alone too in my story was nobody really talks about what happens if there's not really like harsh red flags.
mm-hmm,
Like it's good on paper. Even your
yeah,
family loves him. Like it's a good healthy relationship, but it's not right.
yeah,
And you know that deep, 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 deep down, but you're so afraid to admit it out loud. And you don't really know what to do with it because you're like, well, this is what we've all been looking for is just a partner that's healthy and
yeah.
loves us.
I'll never forget a comment that someone left on one of my posts. She was like, something must have happened. He's a good Christian guy. Why would you break up?
Stop.
And I'm like, just because he's a good Christian guy doesn't mean that we're meant to be together.
There's a million Christians out there and they're not your husband.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's hard.
okay, so let's go into your story.
No.
Yours can be Mark.
Mark.
Yeah.
Who's Mark?
Your fiance, your ex-fiance. It's his code
Oh,
name.
that's his name. Mark was your crazy Alyssa's
Yeah, from the last
ex.
episode.
Different guy, different guy. Mm,
Okay, so when did you and Mark meet?
we met in 2017. I graduated college in May of 2017, and then we met in June-ish, I think. It also kind of feels like another life, which honestly gives hope to anybody that's in the confusion and the heartbreak and all of that. Like you really don't see out of it, and I feel like that's one of the biggest.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's such a. I think that's obviously we're jumping ahead here, but going back to your story and thinking about my story, a big reason you don't action your doubt and fear is because of the fear of the future.
Mm-hmm.
And Maddie and I are both stories of hope that we can both say it feels like another life of ours.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so far past us that the heartbreak and the hurt was so real, and then you're just through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you're in it, you think you'll be the person that doesn't get through it,
Yeah.
and you will.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll feel like another life for you too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a really big part of why I didn't do anything for so long was because there was just like so much debilitating fear. And I just had an objectively good guy. I was just with him for so long. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. We're
How
back.
did you meet?
How did we meet? We met my first few weeks at my first Air Force base. One of my friends at the time connected me to another girl that she knew was at the same base as me in Virginia. And we went to the beach and she had a little friend group and we met there. And then we just kind of had this like friend group that all hung out all the time. There were girlfriends of some of the guys and then some guys and then some single girls. And it was just one big friend group and it was so much fun. And he was always just like such a nice guy, just like really fun and really sweet. And we, at some point, were just texting, and then he asked me to breakfast in fall of 2017.
How long did you date before you got engaged?
We dated from fall of 17 to winter of 2019. I got engaged.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a year and a half.
Yeah.
We're very similar.
We are so similar. I remember when we realized that we were like, holy crap, we literally have like very matching stories. And if only we had each other to be like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
How are you calling off the plans right now? Yeah.
So when you were dating, did you like have any doubts before
Yeah.
the engagement?
Yes, I did. And I had vocalized them. I think for so long, I was always looking for that long-term relationship. Like in college, I had an interesting situation for a while, and
A situationship, if you will.
yes, and it wasn't called that at the time. That term didn't exist. But yes, I had an experience, and didn't end up working out. And then I met this guy that was just so smart, so stable, so grounded, so kind, just a good overall person.
Mm-hmm.
But something, and I think the big struggle, and I didn't know it at the time, was the faith part.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting more into my faith, and I think even faith aside, I would have had these struggles. I remember about every 6 months, I would have this like horrible breakdown, and he would comfort me so well and be like, what do you need? What's going on? Let's work through it. What can I do
Mm-hmm.
to make you feel better? We would talk about a plan and we'd move forward, and
Mm-hmm.
I'd feel better. And it was like literally every few months, I would just have this feeling of like something's off.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know, is this normal long-term relationships? Is this adulthood, or is this isn't it?
So your breakdown was about him.
I think more us.
Okay.
It
And
wasn't like anything.
You'd be honest with him about that?
I would.
Okay.
I like once I started realizing it was about faith. I don't think I was ever actually honest about part of what I realized in therapy, which was Home Depot Carly is what we call her.
Yeah.
I don't think I really ever talked to him about that, but the real big root of everything that caused eventually the breakup was faith. I had realized God is really important to me, and it's never going to be perfect, but it's a core to who I am, and it wasn't to him.
Mm-hmm.
And as I grew in my faith, and he didn't. I mean, there's just so much that goes into that, and I think we could talk about that in another episode. But I had vocalized, I feel just so anxious that this is so important to me and not to you, and I don't want to put that expectation on you. I don't want to have resentment towards you, all that kind of stuff. That was a humongous part. And a few of the other things that I think I realized was, the John Gottman study.
Mm-mm.
So I'm probably going to butcher this, so just bear with me. But there's a John Gottman study that did this honeymoon study, and they would bring in all of these honeymoon couples that had just gotten married, and then they would study if they get divorced later on. So it was a very, very, very long study. They put microphones and cameras in certain rooms in this kind of honeymoon suite. Of course, it wasn't in the bedroom or the bathroom. And they had intentionally placed a bird outside, work with me, outside of the window. And John Gottman could identify divorce rates from that interaction, which I don't think he realized how powerful that bird outside the window would be. And I think it was a fake bird. Maybe it was a real bird, unsure. But typically, no offense to the guys, the women would walk in and be like, look at that beautiful bird. And I think it was some stupid number, like 98% of the couples where the guy acknowledged the woman saying, wow, that's a good bird, even if they didn't even like, oh my goodness, like even if they didn't like change everything about them to focus on the bird, they just acknowledged her and were genuine in the acknowledgement of her interest, they're still together.
Yeah.
And then it was some stupid number of like the men that did not acknowledge got divorced.
Yeah, I think I saw that on TikTok. I saw some girl testing her boyfriend, and it was like passing the whatever test.
Yeah.
But it was literally the same thing. She's like, "Oh my gosh, babe, come look at this bird." And he's like, "Where?" And he was like so excited about it. Yeah. So ladies, do that test on your boyfriend.
So important. John Gottman test. That showed me be interested in what your partner is interested about and be excited about what your partner is excited about, even if it doesn't come naturally to you.
Yeah.
And to preface everything, what's my ex's name?
Mark.
Mark. Mark was such a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's probably what made it even more difficult. And I'm not saying toxic relationships are easier. That's not what I'm saying. But on paper, he was such a good guy, so kind, so respectful, prioritized me well, communicated so well. We did conflict well, really cared for me and loved all the parts of me and stayed. And that was one of the big things was I remember we would be on walks and I would see a doodle, and at the time I didn't have my dog, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, a doodle, and I'd be so excited. No, absolutely not. I'll never forget we were in the car and I was so excited to roll down the window to yell out at this couple that was walking their doodle and be like, oh my God, no, like we don't do that.
Well, that's kind of Home Depot Carly.
That's Home Depot Carly.
So tell them what Home Depot Carly is.
So after a lot of doubt and fear and therapy and books and podcasts, I realized that I had lost a really, really big part of myself, and not to his fault, not to my fault, but kind of just the nature of the relationship. I was excited to be his wife, but I also knew that that wasn't me, was who his wife was going to be. And I lost a part of myself. So I lost this person that we call Home Depot Carly, where all I wanted to do when we went to Home Depot was jump on his back and do a piggyback ride. And I knew that that wasn't allowed. And I had to unpack that for a long time in therapy of like finding that light and finding that like fun, goofy side of me, because he kind of grew up in a family that wasn't really goofy. They were very proper and we just grew up very differently. My family, you kind of just say what you want, goof around, yell at each other, giggle, make fun of each other. His family was just, it seemed just maybe a little bit more proper.
Yeah, a little bit black and white.
Yes, very black and white, very logic, very, very smart. Super, super smart. The Huberts are, I wouldn't say astronautical engineers, but
They're Packer fans.
yeah. Yeah, we know how to have a good time, but just very different. And it's funny because I remember talking to my parents like a year or two after we called off the engagement. And I felt like every time we brought Mark up, it would go silent. And I got so self-conscious about, is that their disapproval of what had happened, which we can talk through the timeline of everything that happened. But really it was they were just so uncomfortable and didn't know what to say. And so finally I was like, tell me what you thought, because I really never got their opinion. And they told me he wasn't your best. I'm like, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah.
Like, communicate that to me. And all my friends that I confided in did a really, really almost too good of a job of like balancing empathy with challenge, and never like, Carly, this isn't your guy.
But you can't.
You can't now, being
that.
like the friend that has friends that are in relationships you don't agree with. You're right, you can't. I mean, you challenged me with a friend I have right now that's in a relationship I don't agree with. And my job is to be her friend and be excited for her.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to all my friends that were walking through that with me. But I do kind of wish someone was honest with me. And
Same. Yeah. No one was honest with me either. I had the same thing when I ended it. Everyone was like, yeah, we didn't think that was it. And I'm like, well, why were you going to let me get married? But you have to ask.
It's heavy.
That's something that I've learned. If you're curious about what your friends think, you have to ask the direct questions, because like, I don't think that friends necessarily will tell you honestly if you don't ask.
Yeah. For fear of, having some sort of like broken friendship or an argument or taking sides or anything like that. There's a million reasons, but and I wouldn't say my friends were bad friends or my family was bad because I didn't say anything, but they probably just didn't. There's no guidebook to it, and it's a heavy, heavy, heavy thing. Like, I think also the worst part of it was, we were also excited because of the wedding. And that's where I really put all my excitement and focus, instead of like what's actually going down deep in my soul right now and what's this unsettledness, what's going on.
Yeah.
But I'm a big planner, so I was so excited to plan a wedding for myself. And, my friends were, and my family was so excited to be like, let's do the bridal shower, let's do the wedding shower. When are we thinking about kids? Let's do the honeymoon fund.
Yeah, because you did your bachelorette. Did you do the bridal shower
Did
too?
no, we had no
Oh,
bridal
okay.
shower. Yeah, his mom actually was going to throw a bridal shower for me, which was so nice, and that ended up not working out, but
Mm.
because of everything. But okay, yeah,
Okay, so
okay.
you read the study, and then what?
I think it was actually after our relationship that I realized,
Oh, okay.
look at the bird.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember being so jazzed up about, look at the freaking bird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what he says, what she says, look at it. No
Mm-hmm.
matter if it's a tree, if it's an animal, if it's a architecture,
Mm-hmm.
just look at it
Yeah.
and be so interested in it with them.
And you just didn't feel that he was doing that for you?
Never.
Yeah.
I remember we were driving on a freeway and I was like, look at that house. And it was like a moment of courage for me to say that. And he just kept driving
Mm-hmm.
and like looking forward. And I was like, why aren't you looking at the house? And we were
Mm-hmm.
going so fast that it was going to be missed.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, because I'm trying to keep us safe on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget that.
Mm-hmm.
It's so small. And he probably wouldn't even remember it. But
Yeah, that's when you look back, I feel like there's always those little moments that
yeah.
just kind of add up and just help you realize over time, like
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah. For sure.
How did you feel when you got engaged?
It was like panic.
Yeah,
Like I remember him, I knew it was gonna happen. Like
okay.
did you know yours was
Yeah,
gonna happen?
mm-hmm.
Like they get weird. It's just,
Yeah,
it is what it is. Like I knew it was happening and I was like, I had doubts before, obviously because of the every few months panic. And we were in Germany and he had just flown in and it was Christmas Eve in the city center of Germany, which is always like decked out. Like Christmas is done so well over there.
mm-hmm.
And oh, just cringe thinking about it. And I remember being like, are you sure?
That was your response?
Well, I said yes, and then we walked away, and I was like, I kept saying, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "If you say 'Are you sure?' one more time," which,
That's such a Carly thing,
which,
though.
like, okay, so I was like, is that something, or is that just like how it goes, and that's just not the social media Hollywood look?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like, oh, cry, sad,
Yeah.
it's like, are you sure? Yeah, maybe that was a sign. I don't know. So we were in Germany. My whole family was visiting the next day. I remember waking up, going to bed in my king size bed and being like feeling my finger like this. And I'd be like, oh my God, it's real. And then I just got into party planning mode because
Mm-hmm.
that's my niche is just party planning. It's my favorite thing to do.
Did you feel like you were pushing down those emotions at all, or no?
I think at that time I wouldn't even allow myself to think about it.
Oh,
I was just
okay.
like, this is the next step in our relationship. We'd been
Yeah.
together for a while. Let's go. Let's do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
After he had left, sometime January, March hit of 2020, I would have these breakdowns. And I remember in my apartment in Germany, it was the most like lost feeling in the whole world because you had nobody to process it with. You can't
Yeah.
process it with anybody, obviously, on your deployment. I didn't have a therapist. My friends were so supportive, but I didn't want to put that on them because that's a really hard place for friends to support because their image of your relationship is going to be tainted forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I want them to be able to stand up for me in my wedding with a clear head.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget one day, I'm like a big Pinterest gal, or I used to be, and I love to save home inspo.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saving living rooms this day, and I couldn't see him in the living room. And it was the weirdest
Like you
thing.
couldn't imagine
I
it?
couldn't imagine him. Like
Mm.
I could see me because I'm obviously saving it. I'm like, this is a dream living room. And I couldn't see him. It kind of became an exercise where I was doing the kitchen. And I'm like looking at these kitchen inspo photos. I'm like, there's nothing there.
Mm.
There's nothing there. There's no life there with him.
Mm-hmm.
And these Pinterest photos, I'm like, surely it's just my creativity not working. So then I moved to the nursery, which bold move. And I was thinking about kind of like the nursery and delivery room, and there was nothing there. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember seeing him in the delivery room, like as I was trying to do this exercise, and it only came out as like a friend was there. Like he was my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Like I still to this day can't picture him as my
Yeah.
husband there, as the
Mm-hmm.
father of that child. And then, of course, it just kind of naturally went to the aisle, and I was just really struggling. I'm like, I can see myself walking down the aisle, but I can't see myself walking down to him in the
Mm-hmm.
aisle. I was so paralyzed by so many different doubts and fears and thoughts, and I could not possibly work through them on my own. And I didn't know, I was like, is this God telling me this isn't it? Or is this just what happens after a long-term relationship? You just kind of like, nobody's perfect. You kind of gaslight yourself. Like, nobody's perfect. No relationship is perfect. Surely it's just natural. This is not Hollywood, but I didn't know anybody in my life that had ever expressed doubt before a marriage or before, even in a relationship before.
Yeah, well, I remember asking people like, because people say, oh, when you know, you know.
Oh my gosh, that line, I swear to
Yeah,
God, has got to go.
right? I'm like, do people really just know? But I think some people do feel that way. Like they'll
Yeah.
meet them and they're just like, I know. They feel complete peace. They're like,
Yeah.
this is my husband.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, why don't I feel that? Am I ever gonna
Yes.
feel that? Because I'm
Yes.
really bad at decisions just in life. So I'm like, am I so incapable of like
Yeah.
being confident in my decisions? Am I ever gonna know
Right.
that this is the person?
Yeah.
And then there's other people that are like, you never really know. You just choose. Like you choose
Yes,
to
love
spend
is
your
a
life. Yeah,
choice.
you choose like, okay, this is my husband, and that's just a choice that you make that you
Yeah.
live by. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, which one is it?
No, literally.
And can it be both?
No, literally.
I don't know.
It's debilitating too. And it was like, I couldn't tell which one it was for me because it's like I can choose to love him. We have a wedding venue booked, but something is so off in me. But also, what's reality? Is reality doubt? Is this cold feet? Is like I could not for the life of me decipher.
Yeah.
And thinking back to that house imagery of Pinterest was me realizing, what do I need in that house? Like, okay, I'm picturing this house. What is it that I need?
Yeah.
Like I'm seeing the rooms.
Like what's missing?
What's missing? Is he supplying me what I need in that house without resentment?
Yeah.
And so what I realized later, this was not at this time, was I need laughter and I need a childlike spirit. I need faith and I need just a different compatibility than what we were going through because we worked together good, but it was over time I realized it was me kind of catering to what he wanted.
Yeah.
And it wasn't me.
Yeah.
And so I lost that Home Depot Carly for years. And I remember going into therapy after being like, how the heck do I find her again? Like I've completely lost my light. And it's not because of him. When you're around your people, it's like the playground. It's like the 5 people you surround yourself, you're going to become. And if you aren't okay with that, you need to adjust who you're around. You're like the sum of your parts.
I saw someone say one time, like, picture creating a clone of your husband, like as your child. Like if that makes you happy, then
Yeah.
like you really love the person. Like if you want nothing more for them,
Yeah.
there to be 2 of them,
Yes.
and like 2 of them in your life, not just 2 of them in the world, like
Yeah.
in your life.
Yeah.
Is that okay with you or no?
No. Well, I'm answered for now, but no.
But I think like part of what you're saying is the beauty of a breakup, like how you're saying all these characteristics that you want now. Like that's what you get when you date and break
Yeah.
up. Like I now have so much more clarity on what I
Oh
want.
my gosh, it's crazy.
Yeah, that is the benefit, ladies.
I promise. There's so much hope out there.
But we're in our late 20s.
Yeah.
Not married, not engaged.
True.
And that is a benefit that I think that people, not that there's anything wrong with getting married young. I think a lot of people can have really successful,
For sure.
loving relationships when they get married young. But I know there's like a negative stigma of getting married later and dating later, and there's kind of that pressure. But like, honestly, a true positive is really being able to understand what you want, what you don't want.
So
Because it's
real.
like you just don't realize when you're young. And the more
So
experience
real.
you have dating and in relationships, it just becomes so clear like what you really need in a partner.
Yeah. And what is really trippy and honestly scary to me is I was just going along with the progressive steps of a relationship without pulling out and being like, hold on a second. Is this it? Is this what I want? But there was so much pressure from nobody's fault of their own, but just society, social media, family. This is also what I desire so deeply as a partner and a father to my children. I want kids. I would never trade being 29 and not having a husband or kids with having that heavy, heavy, heavy weight of being married and thinking, is this it? And I think you can have doubt and make it work. I think it's just deciphering and having discernment over, am I settling? It took me a long time to realize I was. Like, and it wasn't because of him. It was because it just wasn't the best fit. Like, there were parts of myself that I had lost.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because there's a healthy balance between like having doubt,
Yeah.
having a healthy amount of doubt, and then being just not at peace. Like I
Yeah.
think that every engagement, every relationship, like if you're engaged, don't be freaking out right now
No,
because you're having
literally.
doubts
Yeah.
about something.
We're not
But
putting
like,
doubt into you.
yeah, I think a certain amount of doubt is totally natural and healthy. But I think when it
Yeah.
consumes you and you're just not at peace more
Yeah.
than you are, it's like, okay, then there's a problem. When you
Yeah.
start looking to outside sources, like one thing I didn't say, like I messaged people on Instagram that had broken
Oh my
engagements before,
gosh.
and an influencer, her name is Maddie Nelson. And I reached out to her. I was like, hey, I just wanted to see if I could get some advice. And it's like now looking back, and when people reach out to me, I'm like, if you reach out to someone,
That's a
like it's
sign.
a sign that you
Yeah.
probably are not in a good spot. Because like if you're to that point where you're seeking
Yeah.
outside help from
Yeah.
people that you don't even really know, it's like, okay.
No, you're desperate for validation. It's funny you said that because part of my story was once I moved from Germany to Alaska, we moved to Alaska together after Germany, just continuing on in the relationship. I reached out to, well, first I inundated myself with podcasts and books. I read every marriage book there is. We started premarital counseling, trying to find validation in anything that this was what was supposed to happen. This was God's plan for my life. I started to email those authors and be like, this is my situation. I don't know why I don't feel good. I cannot figure it out for the life of me, but there is no peace. I've prayed for discernment. I've prayed for clarity. I still have so much fear, so much doubt. I don't know what to do. I mean, it was just months and months and months of this. Like, it was debilitating and it was so sad. And I honestly didn't tell him any of this.
Did you ever get a response from the
I got a
authors?
response from one of them, yeah.
What'd they say?
I don't remember. I did pull up the email the other day. The other day as in like a year or two ago. I remember seeing it, but I also reached out to leadership of the premarital counseling, and it was funny because one of them said no and one of them said yes, go with it.
Really?
One of the ladies on the leadership team had said, my husband's still not a believer, but I believe I was called to marry him. And
Was that what her book was about?
she didn't have a book. She was on leadership.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah. And the book guy was like, nah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's like, don't listen to
No,
her.
literally. So it was like, and then I would survey all the people in my life slowly. So that just inundated with me with all this data. And so all I wanted was more data of how to make a decision. And then what changed everything was reading Untamed by Glennon Doyle. And she had said, and this is like the biggest piece of advice I give to people, is go into a closet with a notebook if you want, no phone, no nothing, dark closet, turn the lights off, and find where you feel peace. And the whole time I realized I was so focused on fear. I was so focused on fear of making the wrong decision, letting people down, having regret if I called it off and I was supposed to be with him. And it was just like, it was all surrounding fear instead of like, okay, what is my next best step that I actually feel good about? Like, where does my heart feel settled in? Where is the peace? And I realized coming out of my physical wardrobe was I felt peace with delaying the wedding. But then if I break up, what if I have to deal with infidelity or this addiction or that addiction? When right now I just have somebody in front of me that's good to me, kind to me, loving, has a good job, supports me, is respectful of me, loves my family. That's
Yeah.
good enough, right? Like, that's it. And that is the lie. I think that's so easy to be like, shut up, shut every lie up in your heart, in your soul that of unsettledness, and doesn't let you really actually think like, okay, what is that lack of peace coming from? And like, what's the root?
Yeah.
What do I need in that house that I don't have?
Instead of settling for good enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like, I had nobody to turn to that had ever vocalized doubt before.
Yeah.
So it was all Hollywood stuff. Really, it was like books in Hollywood.
Yeah. It's so hard when you don't have anyone. I feel like now, I don't
Yeah.
know if it's because we're getting like older
Yeah.
or something, but I feel like we're meeting more and more people now that have broken off
Oh,
engagements.
well, Nashville is the city of called off engagements.
Yeah.
I never met anybody until you
Uh-huh.
that had called off an engagement, which is why I was so excited to meet you, because I felt so lost and alone in that, like, also fear of regret of like, did I make the wrong decision? I could have a stable life right now with a man that loves me,
Mm-hmm.
even though there's still always going to be that like what if deep down in my heart, which is a terrible feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also the hope of this also is I've been with guys since my last relationship that just reinforced, okay,
Yeah, there's hope.
there's so much hope.
Uh-huh.
And I was allowed to be Home Depot Carly and I was loved for it.
Okay, so you emailed the authors, they got back to you, then what?
I went on my bachelorette trip.
Okay.
So much fun. I think that that was also part of me not wanting to call it off, like, because that's more guilt of like, I just went on my bachelor, or not guilt, embarrassment and shame.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just went on my bachelorette trip. You can't call off your wedding after that.
Mm-hmm. Did you express doubt to any of your girls there over the
No.
weekend?
One girl, Jenny, she actually lives in Nashville. She was the only person I knew in Nashville when I moved here. She was always like my rock with doubt and fear and challenge, but love and encouragement of like, no matter which way I went, she balanced it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
She was, I think, the only person at that time that knew.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think I expressed it because my mom went on my bachelorette trip. All my bridesmaids, all my other friends, I hadn't expressed it to any of those people.
Mm.
So I remember when I got back, we were doing our wedding registry, which like that should be the most fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're checking out espresso machines. So that's where we were at. We were putting espresso machines in our on our registry.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason he said, "What's wrong?" And I wasn't even saying anything. I wasn't doing clearly I was doing something, but
Mm-hmm.
I was on my laptop scrolling. I remember where we were on our sectional. And he said, "What's going on? What's up?" And I said, "Why do I feel like this marriage is going to be short term?" And he said, "What?" I'm like, "I have this horrible feeling this is going to be temporary."
Oh gosh.
And then we took a beat, took a pause,
What do you mean took pause?
like
You're like, I just need a minute.
just like let's just pump the brakes for a second because we started to like talk through why I was feeling this way.
Uh-huh.
That's all that could come to me at that moment. And we went upstairs maybe a few hours later and broke up. He started packing a bag and I started freaking out, just emotionally, like bawling my head off. And I think at that time that also became really confusing of like, that was my one step of faith of like, maybe let's delay the wedding and just figure us out. And I felt so much pain in that breakup that I was like, maybe this is a
wrong?
sign
Yeah.
we should be together.
Mm-hmm.
Which pain I don't think is an indicator that you're in the wrong.
Yeah.
That's just a byproduct of leaving somebody. And that's
Mm-hmm.
and I immediately wanted to run from the pain and said, let's stay together.
Yeah.
So I remember like reeling him back in as he was packing a bag and be like, stay, please don't leave. He was gonna go to a hotel. Like, please, please, please don't. We lived in this house together. And he didn't. And I said, just give me a moment, like give me time.
Mm-hmm.
And so he gave me a month. So we lived together for that month of just like in between. Mind you, we're getting really, really close to the wedding. So this was probably my bachelorette was in March of 2021. Our wedding was in June.
Oh wow.
So this was happening between April and May. And ended up just being like, I knowingly cannot walk down the aisle in peace, joy, and love, looking forward to our future.
Mm-hmm.
Like it isn't there. And so we just decided to call off the wedding. He had to go to a separate school for the Air Force, and I left the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved home just to kind of like clear my head and be like, what is going on?
So what was the reason that you gave your guests for calling off the wedding?
COVID.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So nobody knew what was really going on.
Family knew, and that was it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And close friends knew.
Yeah.
But yeah, COVID. I don't think I was strong enough to give an honest reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember being on the couch before I left Alaska thinking, there is no possible way I have enough strength to leave this house, leave this relationship, leave this state without him. Being like, I literally don't have it in me. There's no strength within me to leave this.
Mm-hmm.
And now here I am, like literally it's another life.
Mm-hmm.
And it like just gives so much hope. And I remember thinking if I had nobody to look to that had experienced anything like this before. And if I could ever be that for one person, it was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Casey went home. He was in the Air Force. Did you guys talk? Or was it just
Yes.
like a hard,
Yeah.
like, cut?
Yeah. We stayed in a relationship. He went to the school that was very, very difficult for pilots in the Air Force. And we decided, let's stay together so that you have this rock and just kind of as much stability as possible in this really difficult 6 months. So kind of just did status quo. And that was obviously kind of confusing and very difficult. We kind of just like avoided that. Did all the phone calls, all the FaceTimes. I went out to his graduation, left his graduation. So his graduation was in December of 2021. At the time, I had already moved to Texas. So I was at home. I moved to a different state.
You moved to Texas and you were still with him? I did not
Yeah,
realize
yeah.
that. I
It was
don't
all
think,
long distance, obviously, but
yeah, I don't think I realized that you guys kept it going for so
yeah,
long after.
yeah, we did. Because I kind of just wanted to move to a new place, start over, and see what it felt like, and still be his rock. And so I up and moved to Dallas. Literally no research, no nothing for my job. I just decided to do it. And yeah, I did it. And that was in probably, oh gosh, maybe July, August or September of 2021. He graduated in December. We broke up then in December. And then
So as soon as he was done with school,
we
did
broke.
you just say, like, look, this is done?
I think we had said, let's like give ourselves a break. Let's go on a break and not talk and see how we do. And then we just never picked up again.
That's how it ended?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's so, like, vague.
So you sound Wisconsin there.
So vague in the
So
bag.
big. Yeah, it kind of was like a slow burn. Not a slow
Yeah.
burn, but like
An
it wasn't like a
ease.
hard
Yeah.
stop, which I feel like I wasn't strong enough at the time for a hard stop, like when we had originally called off the wedding.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what happened. He wished me happy birthday that March. And really, I don't think we ever talked after that birthday in March of 2022.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So after that, after you finally, like, cut it off, do you think you were, like, at peace with it? Or was it still really hard to go no contact?
I was so at peace.
Oh.
I think I missed having my companion, which is, I empathize with anybody leaving a relationship, that is the biggest part, is losing your partner and losing your best friend. But knowing you trusted yourself and you took the leap to trust yourself. And I think I realized I didn't have any trust in myself with that big of a decision. And also, I think I punished myself for so long for not knowing. And there's so much grace with that. There is no timeline. So even if there is a timeline, like there was a timeline for me, there isn't a timeline. Remove the timeline if you need to. Like, this is your life. This is your story. Give yourself grace. Give yourself a break. Don't rush into it if you don't feel like it's right yet. And for so long, I was like, well, even people that are 100% sure get divorced. You know, like even the people that were so confident walking down the
You're,
aisle
like,
get
bracing
divorced.
yourself to get a divorce even before you get married.
Literally. And I genuinely believe when it comes time for me to get married, there will be that unshakable peace of just like, this is what's meant for me.
Yeah.
I know it deep down to my core. There's going to be hills and valleys. There's going to be hard times and there's going to be fights. And it's all going to be for good. And it's going to be hard, but it's going to be good. And you're going to know this is my person no matter what. And I've had glimpses of that where that would have even surpassed my last relationship with him, where I'm like, man, this guy and I like get along so much better. And I think when you don't, there's a reason you can't really see out of it when you're in it. But just know that our stories, hopefully at the very least, are hope that if you do feel that doubt and uncertainty, don't punish yourself for not knowing what to do, because I was debilitated for so long, like so long. It took me so long to finally make a decision. But just knowing that like this is your story too. It's not just about like pleasing them either. I think for so long I struggled with like, well, I want to make him happy and I don't want to hurt him.
Yeah, you don't want to hurt them because even if you don't want to marry them, even if you break up, like you still love the person and
Yeah.
you care about them deeply.
Deeply.
And you don't want to break their heart, but you know that you're going to. And it's just the worst feeling. Like it's horrible to be broken up with, but most of the times it's horrible to be the breaker upper too. Like it's
sure.
just
Oh my God, it was
it's awful.
horrible.
Yeah.
I broke this man's heart, which I never in my life thought that would be me. Like, I don't feel like I'd have it in me to break somebody's heart. And I'll never forget seeing his face And it's just horrible, especially when he's done nothing wrong. He's done nothing wrong. And I think that was also part of my hesitation and frustration was, how am I going to justify this to the world and to the people in my life? Like, he didn't do anything, nothing happened. It was a lack of peace. And nobody talks about that in this society. In Nashville, they do. But nowhere else do they talk about it. And I felt like on social media, they didn't talk about just a lack of peace, even though on paper it looks good and logically it makes sense to get married. And I felt so alone and crazy and wrong. And I feel like it's so normal. And so I'm
Yeah.
just excited, like, even if one person listening to this feels just like that little bit of like, should I follow society's path of being in this relationship because you're supposed to be in a relationship and that's the definition of success, or follow your gut and trust yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we'll find it one day. But it's such
Oh
a
my
hard
gosh,
path.
for sure.
Yeah. It's just such a hard path to navigate.
It's hard.
But yeah,
It's really
hopefully
hard.
our stories can resonate with some
Yeah.
people and help, encourage them
I
to
hope
find
so.
the strength and the courage to end it if they need to, or give them affirmation that they're with the right person.
True.
Confirmation.
And like really focus on that peace. Don't focus on the fear. Like, and even if peace isn't like a humongous step, what's the next best step you can take? Like, I remember being like, okay, I don't feel peace with breaking up with him, but I mean, that probably was a weakness, but like, I feel peace with saying, let's postpone the wedding. Like, where do you feel just a little bit more of peace? Not, what if I don't make the right decision?
Yeah.
And I was so
Just take it bit by bit, not
bit by
like the
bit.
whole thing at
Yeah.
once. Yeah.
And like, don't focus on thinking like, well, what if I do this and it's wrong? Like, your life is going to happen how it's supposed to happen. And focus on where you feel peace. Like, where does your heart feel settled? And for so many months and years, I was focused on what if I make the wrong decision? And I think that was like the biggest game changer for me.
Yeah. And I think it's also comforting if you are a Christian to remember that like God will work in either decision that you make.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're already like in a marriage where you feel like
Yeah.
you weren't sure about, or in a relationship or you feel like you've made the wrong decision, it's like God will use that too. You're not
Yeah.
too far gone.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I love what you said, following the peace and just taking it step by step. Because
Yeah.
that's so practical to like, okay, you don't feel peace calling it off, but you feel peace doing this. And then it's helpful to also take it a step further and unpack that. Like, okay, why does
Yeah.
that give me peace? Why does
Yeah.
it give me peace to call it off?
Yeah.
Because I'm not ready to commit. Okay, why? And like really just diving deep into like
Yes.
understanding your emotions. Because I feel like when you're going through that, the emotions are so complex and so heavy. It's like you can't even begin, you don't even know where to start.
There is no way to see through that.
Yeah.
There's no way. And that's where you have got to bring in community or a therapist.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot do that alone. There is no weakness in that. I think I went to 7 different therapists because I was like, I need somebody to give me answers. Just prescribe me and tell me what to do. And no, none of the therapists would do that. But
it's so hard because you want so badly for someone to give you
oh my
answers. But it's like
gosh,
if people
yes.
told you, no, call it off,
Yeah.
you'd be like, no, because I love him and blah,
Yeah,
blah.
and
And
he's
then
a
if
great
people said
guy.
like, yes, get married, you'd be
Yeah.
like, well, I have all these doubts. It's like you want answers, but either answer you're not happy with
Yeah.
from someone else. Like,
Yeah.
you have to have that answer yourself. You have
Yeah.
to come up with the conclusion yourself, or else you're not going to be happy with it.
Yes, and there is a humongous difference between a sea of doubt and uncertainty and anxiety and cold feet. Like, there's pre-wedding jitters.
Yeah. Are you nervous about the wedding, or are you nervous about the
Yes.
marriage?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And like, what do I want in that house?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good question for everyone to ask when they're in a relationship, is like, what do I need in that house, and can this person supply it?
Yeah.
And back to John Gottman, are they interested in what you're interested in, and do they care about the things you care about?
I love that so much.
It is so little,
Yeah.
but it is so important, because guess what? Over time, if they aren't interested in what you're interested in, you're not going to vocalize the things that bring you joy and bring you passion and things that make you you, because you know they're not going to hear you and see you and validate you.
And then you're slowly going to lose that part of yourself. Like,
Home
what happened
Depot
with you?
Carly
Yeah.
is a goner.
Now she's back. She's back,
I wonder
baby.
if she is back.
She is back.
Yeah.
For sure.
There's this one friend Maddie and I have in our life. He's a close friend of mine, and he was like such a big part of me realizing like Home Depot Carly is back.
Yeah.
And she's loved because of it, not less than because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like jump on the back of somebody and have a piggyback ride and have the time of your life and dance in the rain and scream to the top of your lungs when you're singing. And I was so quieted. And that isn't life. And if you're in a relationship for long enough, that can become your life. And you can think, well, maybe that's a part of maturing.
Yeah.
Maybe like I just need to be older and more mature and like not sing to the top of my lungs and not dance in the rain and not go pet that doodle.
Yeah.
And really it's like, no, that's you. Like go be you.
Yeah.
And find the people that make you feel comfortable being you. And I have those people in my life in this city, and I had those people in Dallas. And that's life.
Yeah.
You know, like that's
Yeah.
it. And I just pray for the people that are in it right now, feeling the doubt and feeling the, you know, concern and the anxiety. We were there and we feel it and we see you. And even if you're married and feel it, like we pray for you and we pray for miraculous change. And just know that you have an army of people behind you, and
Yeah.
don't be scared to ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope you guys liked this episode. Sorry it was long. We had a lot
a
to
long
say, but we will be back next week with some submissions. So
Yeah.
be sure to follow us on our Instagram so you can send in the submissions. Our Instagram is at the Tuesday Tea Podcast. That's what our TikTok is, and our YouTube too if you want to watch us while we talk. There's the video like edition of the podcast on YouTube, and then for sending in submissions, it's the Tuesday Tea Pod at gmail.com.
Yes.
So yeah, be sure to follow us. Give us a 5-star rating and review. No 4 stars, okay, only 5 are acceptable. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks for listening to our story, and we're so excited to hear from you guys next week.
Yes.
There's gonna be
I know, I'm so excited. I can't wait to film it.
Too. That's the best part about last week, was hearing everybody's stories.
Yeah.
Obviously this is important too, but I'm excited to get back to stories and submissions.
Yeah. Me too.
I can't wait. All right, episode 2.
All right, see ya.
See you later.